CCSI Social Engineering and Phishing Attack Best Practice Defenses webinar, featuring Roger Grimes, who is a data-driven defense evangelist for KnowBe4. KnowBe4 is a well-respected and well-known security awareness training product, and today we'll discuss best practices to use that product as well as security awareness and training. My name is Robert Villano. I'm the pre-sales cybersecurity manager here at CCSI, and we're delighted to present this webinar to you today. So as we begin, we talk about CCSI and why CCSI. CCSI was founded back in 1974 on the principles of honesty, integrity, and trust. These are time-tested beliefs for which we use today and are a foundation of our success as a business today. We understand the success of each client ensures our success. So we encourage you to give us a call. Let's have those conversations to discuss your needs for various sectors of IT and information security. We're involved in infrastructure, third-party maintenance, cloud and data center, cybersecurity, and physical security. And we have our own managed services offerings through our Network Operations Center and our Security Operations Center. We offer unified solutions for your complex business transformation efforts. We're happy to engage, bring our set of experts, and talk to you about solutions that meet your business objectives. So today's webinar will have a series of questions and answers at the end of today's session. We're happy to receive those. Please send those to me, Robert Villano, in the WebEx chat box. We'll hold them until the end of the session, and Roger will happily answer them. With that, let's get started. I'd like to introduce you to Roger Grimes. Roger, we're delighted to have Roger. Roger is a 33-year computer security veteran, author of 13 books, over 1,100 magazine articles. He's highly regarded in the security awareness and training area. And the product he will present and the company he works with today is KnowBe4, which is a well-respected security and awareness training product that we're happy and delighted to present to you today. So with that, I'll turn the mic over to Roger Grimes.
Thanks a lot, Rob. Thanks everybody for attending. Let me get my slides up. Stand by. There we go. And y'all should start to see them come up now. And like Rob talked about, I've been doing computer security for now going on 34 years. I've earned all of these gray hairs. There's some of my books. My latest one that just came out this week is Ransomware Protection Playbook. I work for KnowBe4, the world's largest integrated security awareness and simulated phishing platform vendor, meaning we try to help people to teach themselves and their coworkers and friends and family not to be socially engineered and phished. And we're going to talk about why that's a big deal, and then I'll give you lots of examples of phishing, and then we'll talk about how the 5 best things you need to do to defend yourself. And I'm not going to say antivirus and firewall. We're going to talk about other things that actually work even better. But we'll start by, why is fighting phishing so important? Well, hackers are after all of us, right? It's like ransomware hit half of all businesses last year. They expect more than that this year. Some people are predicting 100% of companies will be hit by ransomware next year. But a lot of times, most of the time, it's usually because somebody was a victim of opportunity, that they got an email that had some social engineering thing in it, and that they get tricked into running it, or you go to a website that's compromised, you get tricked into running something. You can also be targeted, and more organizations and people are targeted this year than ever before, but targeted hacks are maybe tens of thousands a year versus victim opportunities are in the hundreds of millions a day. And very, very common. The victim opportunity attacks are far more common, where someone randomly opens an email or goes to a website, gets hit by malware, and boom, it's over. And you can't as easily stop a targeted attack. Like if a nation state attack is after you, there's a good chance they're going to compromise you at some point. But you can far more easily put down the vastly more popular opportunity attacks. And this is really how all malware and ransomware and hackers function today, is that a user is connected to the internet. Somehow they get tricked into running a Trojan horse program, which is known as a stub file, a dropper file, or stager file. that file gets on their computer system, installs itself in such a way that it can live through a reboot. A lot of times it will collect passwords out of memory off the disk and out of people's browsers, and then it connects back to what's called its command and control servers. Those command and control servers are just servers. They're just other compromised PCs. So there's people all around the world today, thousands of people, tens of thousands of people are like, my Windows system is so slow. I hate Windows. It's so slow. And what they don't realize is that their PC has been taken over by hackers and malware and is functioning as a command and control server from which hundreds to hundreds of thousands of bots are connecting back and getting their instructions. So in this case, the malware infects this one person's device, uploads passwords, connects back to the command and control servers. It updates itself immediately to keep ahead of the antivirus detection programs and endpoint detection and response programs. They usually monitor, there's a free Google site out there called VirusTotal. If you go to virustotal.com, you can see it. It runs like 73 or 75 antivirus engines. The bad guys monitor that site to see if their program's starting to be detectable. If it is, it re-encrypts itself so that it has a new signature. That way they're always staying in front of the antivirus detection programs. The average malware program that's involved in ransomware is inside of an environment up to 8 to 12 months without being detected, and it's because it's constantly updating itself. Usually it will download 2 or 3 other unrelated programs that would be detected in a different way. So even if you remove it, there's 2 other programs hiding in different places that are completely different. So if you get rid of 1 or 2, there's still a chance the third one is hiding. They collect as many passwords as they can these days from your browser as you type them. Remember, the average program's dwelling for 8 to 12 months. So as you're typing in, like maybe you're going to Amazon to buy garbage bags. You're at work, like, oh, I need garbage bags, and you order garbage bags. They have your Amazon password. You go to your bank to check your bank balance or send money, they get that. You go to your medical accounts, stock accounts, 401k accounts. They're getting all that information as you type it in. They'll notify the ransomware gang that they've infected a new environment. Usually it's sending the domain name of the device it's broken into. The ransomware gang is usually connecting to the command and control servers, and that'll, they have anywhere from tens to hundreds to thousands of new victims, and they can kind of look through the names and figure out which ones they want to target when. Again, most of the time they're in most new environments for many, many months, up to years. There are companies that have been infiltrated for years. We just had an announcement of a company that sends text messages that have been hacked for 5 years with hackers, and they finally told the FCC. And I tell people, don't be shocked. That is not uncommon at all for places to be infiltrated for years and just didn't know it. The hackers come in and out of the environment. They analyze, assess the target. They listen in on people's emails. They listen to the CEO's emails and IT security to see if IT knows about starting to say, hey, I think we have something weird going on. They learn what is the company's main business. They learn how much revenue they make, how they do it. They exfiltrate data. They figure out what is the data that we can take that if we release to the world would hurt this company. They take emails that could be embarrassing to the company and so on. So this right now is how most hackers, malware, and ransomware works today. And then if it's ransomware, then they'll encrypt and ask for a ransom. But they've done all this other information first. There's many ways they can break in. We'll cover those more in a minute, but just in software vulnerabilities alone, last year there's over 18,103 things that we were told we needed to patch or a hacker could use it to break in. That was the year before it was 12,000, the year before that it was 16,000. So it went down. So maybe we should celebrate, but it works out to be about 11 to 50 different software vulnerabilities a day after day, year after year that we're told that we need to worry about. That's on top of all the hundreds of millions of malware programs trying to break into our devices every day, and all the different types of hackers, ransomware hackers, identity theft hackers, nation state hackers, hacktivist hackers, and so on. A lot of stuff trying to break in. But this is important here. Pay attention here. This, no matter what's trying to break in, hackers or malware, this is the 10 ways they've always used to break in. Since the beginning of computers, this has not changed. They're breaking in because of one of these 10 methods. They're using a programming bug. That would be something that's usually unpatched. that there's some software program you're running. It has been patched by the vendor, but the person hasn't applied the patch yet. That's very common. Although this year we've had a lot of what's called 0 days or O days where there isn't a patch available yet, and then the vendor's got to rush out and get the patch out there. Social engineering is a very common way they trick you into running the program or divulging your password. Could be an authentication attack. That would be something like they do password guessing or they know your password. Could be a human error misconfiguration, like somebody accidentally says everyone full control for the permissions on some files that are on the cloud. Could be eavesdropping, where they're eavesdropping on a wireless network and trying to sniff passwords if they can get them. What's called a man-in-the-middle attack. That's where they like send you an email and you get directed to a fake website, and then they direct you to the real website. But anything you send to or from the real web server, all you see is that you're on the real web server. They're collecting all that traffic, including your passwords, things that you type in. They get to see all of it. Could be data malformation. That would be if they send you a file and that file is over to what's called buffer overflow your system and take control of your system. Network traffic malformation. That would be like a distributed denial of service attack, where they're sending like 1 trillion packets to make some web server drop off the internet. Could be a trusted insider attack. There's lots of those, where a person that's an employee is stealing credit card information from customers, or they're taking customer lists that are getting ready to take to a new company. Could be a third-party reliance issue. That's where maybe your network's fairly secure, but somebody you trust and do business with that comes into your network gets infiltrated, and they use that information to then take over your environment. Or it could be a physical attack where they steal your laptop, they steal your USB key or whatever. That'd be a kind of physical attack. So no matter how hackers or malware, no matter what type of hackers, no matter what type of malware, ransomware or whatever, this is the 10 ways that any of them have ever broken into. Every single attack that you've ever heard of, this is how they break into those devices and then further on to other environments. But here, if you're falling asleep, pay attention here, because this is one of the most important pieces of information you'll ever learn, is that for the entirety of computers, social engineering and unpatched software have been responsible for like 90 to 99% of all successful data breaches. And it's always been that way. Social engineering, where they trick you into providing your password or your social security number, or into running a Trojan horse program. Number one way by far, it is, the average study says that social engineering is responsible from 50% to 92% of all successful attacks. And my studies of it, it's 70 to 90% of all successful attacks on anybody's device or in a company is due to social engineering alone. Unpatched software is responsible for about 20 to 40% of all attacks, and sometimes they're used together. And then there's some medium threat that is usually involved about 15% of the time. That changes over time. Sometimes it's USB keys, sometimes it's trusted insider, sometimes it's password attacks, sometimes it's password guessing against remote desktop protocol portals. Sometimes it's years ago, I've been in this business for a long time. It used to be boot sector viruses, and we had to tell people, make sure you eject your floppy disk before you reboot your PC and things like that. Or during Conficker in the 2000s, Conficker would infect people due to USB keys. And so there's different things. But the vast majority of it is social engineering and unpatched software. If you ever hear in the media, like, how did they break in? How did the hackers break into that company, Equifax? Unpatched software is social engineering. That is almost always responsible for all attacks. The vast majority of ransomware attacks today, due to social engineering or unpatched software, and the medium threat today is password guessing or password attacks of some type. And I tell people, you don't have to believe me because I work for a company trying to sell anti-social engineering software and services. Literally just ask yourself, every time you've ever heard of any company hack, how did it happen? It's usually due to one of these two things right here, although it could be something different. Every once in a while, someone gets compromised because of a SQL injection attack or because they had their permissions set wrong. But the vast majority of attack are these two things right here. So if phishing and social engineering is the number one threat, what is it? It is somebody or something masquerading as someone like a boss or a coworker or a friend or a trusted brand. Microsoft, Facebook, Twitter, your energy company, they're masquerading as somebody that you might otherwise have more trust in to then be tricked into doing some action that could hurt you or your company that you would not do if you knew it was coming from a complete stranger in Nigeria. And they're typically trying to trick you into revealing unauthorized information, usually your password, but it could be a security number, it could be company confidential information, or to create a desired action from you, which is normally to run a Trojan horse program. They trick you into downloading a document that has a macro that then runs this executable program. And when they do this, it's against your own interest or your company's own interest to be doing these actions. It's just a criminal con to get you to do things so they can steal money or information from you. It's often done, it's usually done by email. It can be done on the web. It can be done in person. It can be done on the phone. It can be through SMS messaging. And we're going to cover examples of that. And there's different names for it, phishing versus spear phishing versus whaling versus spamming versus vishing versus smishing. We'll talk about these in just a minute. And again, it can come from, it's any way that somebody can communicate with you. The most common examples is that it's like, you get this email, it pretends to be from Microsoft or PayPal or Twitter or Instagram going, hey, your account has been, we've detected some malicious activity. Click here. And that link you click on isn't going to where you think it is. Like this first one where it says it's from PayPal. But if I look up in the email address, it's actually ePayPal, service.epaypal.com. PayPal would be paypal.com. So, but the attacker was able to temporarily get this fake domain name that had the word PayPal on it. So anybody clicking on that link would be taken to epaypal.com, not knowing that it's not the same as paypal.com. Or this one that's claiming to be from Microsoft, they're like, oh, you've had this attack. You can call us. If you call them, they'll answer the phone. Oh, we're with Microsoft, but it isn't Microsoft. It is, somebody using a temporary phone number through Skype or something like that. But the whole idea is to trick you, stress you into thinking you need to do something and going to this bad website. Social media is oftentimes used where they compromise this. Like I love this one from Facebook. If you're a Facebook, update your Facebook account. Click here. Facebook is a cloud app. We never have to update it. It's updated in the cloud. I've never had to click a button or run a program to update Facebook or Twitter or whatever. The one in the background is claimed to be a Twitter account, but it's not really Twitter. If it was from Twitter, that domain name would be twitter.com, but it's really coming from 00webhostapp.com, not twitter.com. Or the bottom one is claimed to be from LinkedIn, but if you look at the link they want you to click, it's not linkedin.com, it's LLinkedIn.ni, and NI is the country code for Nigeria. So that's not going to take you to the Microsoft LinkedIn account. Again, so very typically, they'll try to trick you into clicking on things that are look-alike, sound-alike type of websites. Frequently, the hackers come at us through social media. A lot of times our friends are hacked, and then they use that hacked friends account to send us things they want us to click, like, hey, look at this video, I can't believe it, or, watch this. In that first example there, it's looking like it's a YouTube video, but look, it's not from youtube.com, it is from Kerman.pw. What is that? But it looks, if you don't notice it, it looks like it's youtube.com. And it's asking you, saying, oh, to watch this video, you need to install this video extension to your browser. And what the person doesn't know is if they do that, that will take over their computer and install more malware and all this stuff. This happens frequently. A lot of the social media videos that people share in Facebook and Twitter and Instagram are actually malicious. And people just don't know. If you're ever asked to watch a video and they want you to install a video codec or an extension or something, it is 99.9% of the time malicious. And I remember once when I was at Microsoft, one of my Microsoft coworkers was infected. He's like, I hate Windows. It's always getting infected. And I said, what did you do to infect yourself? He's like, what? I was like, you had to do something. You're fully patched, so you had to be tricked into doing something. Well, I didn't do anything. And then we found out that he had been sent a car video from a friend and went to watch the car video because he had an interest in car video and racing, Fast and Furious. He installed a video codec to watch that video, and that was the virus of the Trojan. Very, very commonly done. Or here's a good example from Twitter. Last year, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Obama, Jeff Bezos, all their Twitter accounts got taken over by some kids, really teenagers. They actually learned how to hack the Twitter. They hacked the Twitter tech support people, took over these 100 accounts, and sent out this bogus message claiming to be, Elon Musk, and it's got the check mark, which means it's a verified account. And they were saying, hey, I'm Elon Musk, and I'm giving back to the community. Send me your Bitcoin address. I will send you back double the Bitcoins, And I remember when this first got sent out, I was sitting with my wife on a couch watching a movie, and I went, obviously Elon Musk's account has been hacked. Who could believe this really was Elon Musk? Those kids made $180,000 in 5 minutes from people who thought that this really was Jeff Bezos going to make them rich or double their money. And one of them ended up being in Tampa, Florida, which is where I am today. And another guy was in the UK. And they all got arrested, or at least most of them got arrested, because they were bragging about how much money they had. And they didn't know how to spend all the money they had. And anyways, they ended up in jail and arrested, which is good. Here's a really common example of what we call a business email compromise type of scam. And this is a fake invoice, that tries to, they send it to everybody, but they're trying to trick someone into paying this fake invoice called business email compromise. The average business that is hit with a business email compromise scam ends up losing more money than even ransomware. Ransomware can ask for more money, but on a per incident basis, business email compromise, these fake invoice scams are able to steal much more money. But this is claimed to be from Maersk. I was working at writing for InfoWorld at the time, where I wrote for 15 years. And so I was a writer. I don't approve invoices, but this is somebody claimed to be from Maersk, which is the world's largest, I think Maersk, the largest shipping and container company, and they're claiming I need to pay this invoice. It's due. They want me to download this attachment. I can see that the domain where this is from is onlinealex.com.pl. PL for Poland is country code for Poland. If Maersk was sending me an invoice, it would come from Maersk.com. It wouldn't come from Online Alex in Poland. But very, very common type of example. Here's another sneaky type. This was actually sent to one of NobleForce customers. We do security awareness training, and they got sent this email claiming to be from us, or at least to an employee. And it had a link saying, hey, you need to take your training. And we have these sort of email notices. I guess this is someone's faking being us. I guess it's a form of flattery. But they wanted people to click on this link and log in and take your training. And the customer noticed it right away. But if you look at the link, it's not nobe4.com, it's nobe.e4.com. So someone registered e4.com. And really, if you hovered over the link, you could see that this link actually went back to turboboulder.ru for Russia. We have no offices or customers in Russia, so this email is not from us. But that's what the hackers try to do, right? These little tiny tricks where it looks like you're going to the right place, but you're not. Certainly during times of COVID last year, we saw a 6,000% increase in phishing attacks using that leverage COVID-19 stuff. Very, very common. Click here to see about your vaccine information. Click here. You've been exposed to a COVID person, and if you open these documents, you would have been infected, or they would have tried to run some malware. This one was one of the most interesting ones that came out early on. This is a official heat map by Johns Hopkins University, where you could drill down. You could click on the heat map and drill down and find out how many people in your community were infected with COVID. This code was open source code that Johns Hopkins shared with other help. They said, oh, anybody can have this code and make up their own heat map things. The hackers grabbed this source code, but they changed when you clicked on that link. It would say, oh, you need to install this program or this extension to watch this heat map. And it was just, a bogus. So it actually worked. The map actually fully worked, except for when you clicked on it, it installed malware on your system. So very, very tricky. We're seeing a lot of SMS message phishing these days. We call smishing. All of these are fake messages that were sent to me. I love the Wells Fargo one. Account is locked. Well, Wells Fargo is the world's largest bank, has more customers than any other bank. I don't belong to Wells Fargo, so I knew this was bogus, but they were bound to hit a whole bunch of Wells Fargo customers that would kind of freak out. On the bottom right-hand side, that's an email or a text that a friend of mine named Stephanie sent to me. She's like, Roger, I'm pretty sure this is bogus. It's one of these, hey, we tried to deliver your package and you weren't home. She actually lived on a boat. and was used to getting these messages. But what she was confused about, she goes, "This looks fake to me because it's not going to FedExpress.com or wherever it would come from in real life." But she goes, how would they know my name and my number? And I was like, they just found it on the internet, right? And then the attackers added your name to make you more likely to click on that link. I followed that link. I put it in a virtual machine that was safe, and I went there and I tried to install malware on her system. Sometimes it's even just anybody can claim to be anybody in messaging and phone calls. A common type of attack is that a hacker will send to somebody, they need to know that you have like a Gmail account or a Microsoft account or something like that. And they need to know your phone number. They need to know your email address and your phone number, and that email address is resettable using an SMS message. But then they can claim to be anybody, like, I'm from Microsoft, I'm from Google. In this case, I'm from Google Security. We've detected a rogue sign into your good guy at Gmail account. In order to determine the legitimate login, we're going to send a verification code to your previously registered phone number from another Google support number. Please retype the sent verification code in response to this message, or your account will be permanently locked. You've got to put that, they've got to put that fear of God. We call that a stressor event, like, you don't want to lose all my pictures. Then they go to Gmail in this case, type in your email address, act like they forgot your password, because they don't know it. Gmail says, do you want to try to put in your last password? They're really nice. You say, no, try another way. You then get 4 or 5 ways to recover that account, one of which are SMS. It then sends the code to the victim's real phone, and the victim types this back in response to Google Security. And at this point, that attacker uses that code to take over the account. They change the person's password and then use that to steal money, identity theft, send messages to their friends. And let me say, this happens all the time. This is a common thing. Even phone calls. I got a call from someone claimed to be from my bank, and they said, they said my bank's name, they said my number, they verified my address, and then they said, Mr. Grimes, we think you might have a fraud alert on your account. Did you buy 2 tickets from Dallas, Texas to Nigeria today? I said, no. They said, well, thank goodness we stopped this. We'll let you know we didn't think you did because you live in Tampa, Florida. But we've blocked those 2 tickets, and we see $50,000 of other charges, and we're not sure which ones are legitimate that you want us to pay and which ones are fraudulent. So we need you to review the list and tell us. But we're, so we can block them before we send you the new credit cards. And I was like, oh, okay, this is great. Let me say that I had my account credit card compromised 3 times this year. But I said, okay. And they said, okay, what's your login name? So I gave them my login name. They said, okay, what's your password? And I went, I'm not gonna tell you my password. You should know my password if you're from my bank. They said, okay, well, we're gonna send you a code, and we need to tell you, to tell us that code so we can verify you are who you say you are, because you're a valued customer, Mr. Grimes. But then they sent me the code, and what they had done is actually gone into my bank, put in my email address, asked for it to recover the account as if I'd lost my password. And if I would have told them that PIN number that they sent me, that the bank sent me, they would have taken over my account. They would have kept me on the phone with these fake, bogus charges and everything. It's amazing what they do. And this happens, I don't know how many times, but hundreds to thousands of times a day. A lot of these are called voice phone phishing. The most common one was, hey, we're from Microsoft and we've detected a virus on your system. I love Microsoft. I worked for Microsoft for 11 years as a full-time employee. But let me tell you, Microsoft don't call nobody. They don't call nobody, especially if you're infected with a virus. Matter of fact, the opposite is true. If you had a virus on your system and you want to call Microsoft to help you, good luck. I mean, there's thousands of numbers on the internet. Which one would you call? You could have a credit card or $400 cash wanting Microsoft to help you, and you'd have a hard time getting help from them. But if you don't know that Microsoft never calls anybody for any reason, much less to help with a virus, you're more likely to fall prey to that type of attack. There's entire 1,000-person call centers in India and Pakistan and Sri Lanka that all they do is call with these fake "we're from Microsoft" calls. And what they want you to do is get to your computer system, then they'll send you a link. You click on that link, it installs malware that finds all kinds of viruses. Then they sell you a fake antivirus. Then they get your credit card, and they actually make purchases on your credit card, and they resell that credit card number to other people. Or it could be PayPal or your bank or your airline company. The trick is you don't know anyone sending you a message or a phone call who it is. And let me say, I got another call just a couple of weeks ago from my credit card company telling me that my credit card had been compromised for the 3rd or 4th time this year. I was like, what? Am I doing something wrong? They went, no, it's other groups and vendors that you have nothing to do with being compromised. I said, they said, can you tell us your information about, and I went, nope, I don't know who you are. I don't know that you're my credit card company. They said, oh, you're right, Mr. Grimes, just call the number in the back of your credit card, So I got the back of my credit card, hung up with them, called that number, and sure enough, it had been compromised again. But that's the way it should work. But another time I had someone call me from Comcast, my cable company, and they're like, hey, Mr. Grimes, we want to give you a competitive upgrade. We're going to upgrade your bandwidth 1,000%. It's free. All you got to do is give us your information. What's your login name? What's your PIN? I had a PIN instead of a password for that account. I said, listen, I don't know who you are. I'm not going to tell you what my PIN is. You can tell me what my PIN is. I'll tell you whether you're free or not. They said, nope, we don't know your PIN. You have to tell us your PIN before we can access your account. It's to protect your account. I said, can I call the known Comcast number and get directed to you? They said, nope, we're actually a call center in the Philippines and you can't call us. I was like, well, I have to, can't get your offer. So just remember this, you do not know who is calling you. And there's lots of these scams lately. Here's some other examples. I get called from Karen Stewart all the time to repay my federal student loan. I never had a federal student loan. I can never get to Karen, but when I call that number, I get lots of people with Indian and Pakistani accents that are trying to help me. Recently in my neighborhood, I live around Tampa, Florida. The energy company that services is Duke Energy, and the scammers called thousands of people and claimed your power is going to be shut off because you didn't pay your bill and you got to go ahead and get gift cards to pay us. And you think, who in the world would believe the power company wants to pay them with gift cards? Hundreds of people fell victim to this scam. So, and the same thing from the bank. Just remember, you cannot figure out who these people are if you don't know them. Phone numbers can be fake. Don't trust someone calling you. Don't trust someone messaging you. Always, if you can, call a legitimate number that's not in the email or the message to verify that. Don't give that information away. Ransomware these days, very popular, very big. It infects people, steals their intellectual property, steals their data, steals their passwords. It threatens the employees and customers as well. Many times the victim organization's employees or customers are also ransomed as well. They even if they break into your company, they'll use your email system to send phishing emails to companies that trust you, claiming that you got to pay this invoice or new wiring instructions, and they steal money from that. All of these things that ransomware does today, a backup will not save you from. So what are your defenses to all of this? Well, the first thing to remember is that anybody can fall victim to social engineering. I don't care how smart you are, doctors, lawyers, Nobel Physics Prize winners. There's a guy that won a Nobel Prize in physics for quantum physics, one of the smartest guys in the world. He lost $2 million to a phishing scam. It has, whether or not you fall victim to a social engineering scam has nothing to do whether you're smart or not. We all can be tricked. I have been tricked by simulated phishes that just triggered the right button, or I was moving once and I was busy, and my company sent me a simulated phishing attack email, and it just said, click this to install this patch, and I knew that Microsoft had a big patch that was coming out that day. But if I looked at the email, it was totally bogus. It didn't use the right name of the departments for my company. The patch wasn't coming from Microsoft. And I just, I was busy. I was moving. Boom, I fell victim. Anybody can fall victim to social engineering. But the trick is if you educate yourself and others about the types of scams, like if you don't know that Microsoft never calls people to help them with computer viruses, you're more likely to fall for that scam. But once you know and you've been told about this type of scam, or if you've been told that an energy company or a policeman or the IRS can call you, a fake person from the IRS claiming that you need to pay with gift cards, anytime you get a call claiming to be, somebody wants you to pay in gift cards, you're going to know it's a scam. So it's all about alerting people to the types of scams that can occur to them to make them have a healthy level of skepticism when they get them. Now, given all of these types of attacks, this is the 5 best ways to prevent all hackers and malware. It's not people go, what antivirus do you recommend? Any. They're all about the same no matter what they say. Some a little bit better than others, but really they're all, the antivirus. 85% of the victims that get compromised by ransomware this year had up-to-date antivirus and firewalls and all the other stuff you're supposed to have. They help, but they're just not perfect. Nothing's perfect. But this is what you need to do. Remember, 70 to 90% of all malicious attacks are due to social engineering. So mitigate social engineering any way you can. I'll give you some more steps in just a minute. there is nothing more important than mitigating social engineering, meaning block it so that, the social engineering never gets to you. Antivirus can help with that. Firewalls can help with that a little bit. Other types of software, content filtering and anti-spam and anti-phishing software can help with that. Education helps with that, because no matter how good your technical defenses are, some amount of social engineering will get to you. And so you need to educate yourself and others to help mitigate social engineering. There is nothing better to prevent hacking and malware than mitigating social engineering. It's responsible for 70 to 90% of all attacks. Patch your internet accessible software. That's your operating systems, that's your browser, that's your browser add-ins like Adobe Acrobat, that's your VPN. If you have VPN software, make sure it's patched. Anything that a hacker can test from the internet to see if it's been patched or not, you need to patch. Those two things alone will prevent 90 to 99% of all attacks. The next thing that will certainly help prevent these days about 15% of the attacks, because again, these things are often related together, used together by the attackers, is use multi-factor authentication where you can. Multi-factor authentication, is something that comes in on your phone, some code that you get, or you have some app, maybe it says approve here to prove that you logging in. Or it could be a device that you plug into your laptop, or it could be biometrics. You should use multi-factor authentication where you can, and that's because a large part of the social engineering is due to people trying to trick you out of your password or steal your password. And if you don't have a password because you're using multi-factor authentication, that type of attack is not going to work. Unfortunately, only 2% of the world's websites and services work with multi-factor MFA authentication. You're going to have a lot of passwords. We all have lots of passwords. You should use non-guessable passwords. So use MFA where you can. Where you can't, use unique, unguessable, different passwords for every website and service. I'm a big believer in using password managers. They help you create and use long and complex different passwords for every website and service. Fourth thing you can do is teach yourself and everyone around you how to spot rogue URLs. Most phishing attacks have some sort of BS link in there trying to trick you into going somewhere that you shouldn't. So learn how to read URLs and then learn how to spot the legitimate ones versus the rogue ones. I've got some links here. I've shared this deck. I think I've shared this deck with Rob, and I think he can share with anybody that wants it. But if you go to that first link there, that's an article that I wrote that says here's the 12 most common tricks that the hackers use to trick you into clicking on a rogue URL link. If you go to that second link there, that's a 1-hour webinar where I give like 50 examples. I teach you how to read a legitimate URL and then how to spot the bogus ones, and also use least permissive permissions. That, don't be logged in as local administrator or root all the time, especially when you're on the internet or picking up email. That is just crazy. You should be a normal user when surfing the web or picking up your email. Otherwise, you're risking a chance that a malware attack will take over your computer system. And again, we're very big believers in training yourself and other people, called security awareness training, because no matter how great your defenses are, there's going to be some amount of hackers and malware that make it past those defenses. So you need to teach yourself and your end users and your coworkers and your friends and your family how to spot bad things, the malicious stuff trying to break in, and how to respond, which in your company should be to report that to IT security or IT or your help desk, or at the very least, ignore or delete the message, right? Not to click on it. When you click on these sort of messages, then the bad things can happen. We're very big believers in security awareness training. We think that every company should do simulated phishing attacks against their employees. They actually should train them every month. Every employee should get a little bit of training somehow with a poster, an email, or a video they have to watch, just a short training. And then you get simulated phishing at least once a month to see if you understood that training. Like maybe we train you, be careful about these COVID scams. And then you wait a week or two and you send out a simulated phishing email that says, hey, this is a COVID, you got to update and take your COVID, booster, and see how many people might click that. You want to teach people to hover over every URL link. Most of the URL links will reveal themselves if you hover over them if you can. And again, if you're interested in watching my 1-hour webinar, there's the link again. When in doubt, if you're not sure if an email is legitimate or not, chicken out. I actually got a Facebook email yesterday. So Facebook was down for 7-8 hours the other day. The next morning, I got a link from Facebook in an email asking me to update my trusted contact list. And in Facebook, trusted contacts are like friends or family members that if you get locked out of your account for some reason, these trusted contact people can help unlock your account. Well, it was just an email out of the blue. To be honest with you, it looked very much to me like a phishing attack. But when I hovered over the link, it actually took me to facebook.com. I then even looked into the email, what's called headers, and I could see that it passed what's called SPF, DMARC, and DKIM. Those are three, just if you know about DMARC, SPF, and DKIM, they're checks that told me that this email really did come from Facebook. So it ended up that this email from Facebook that looked like a fish was probably not a fish. But I got to tell you, even though I knew this is probably a legitimate email, but I wasn't sure. I went to facebook.com separately, went to my trusted contacts, and I got to tell you, there was no warning message. There was nothing telling me to change my trusted contacts, so I just deleted that email. It's probably a legitimate email, but I do not trust it enough to follow that, even though it had a lot of it. It was very fishy looking, but I think it was legitimate. But I'm like, I don't need to do that. So I chickened out. I did not click on it. I just deleted it. I figured if Facebook really wants me to do that, they'll contact me again. And also, if you want to learn about how to read email headers, you can go to my phishing forensics class. There's a link. It's a 1 hour class there, but that will teach you how to read email headers. So you too can be like me and go, okay, did this really come from Facebook? Also, we do have this PDF. I'm going to send it to Rob if I haven't already, so you can get it from him, or you can email me at rogerg@noble4.com. But this is a PDF poster that talks about the 22 red flags of social engineering training. So how to spot if you get an email about whether it's a social engineering email or not. Like a big one is if the sender, where it claims it's from, if the email address doesn't match up with what's called the friendly name next to it, that's weird. If you hit reply to and the reply to address is different than the sender address, that's kind of weird. Does it have a dangerous file attachment in it? Does it have a rogue looking URL? Did it come to you late at night? Does it have a weird subject? Does the subject not match the message? This is a great poster. You can print it up and send it to anybody, give it to your kids, give it to family members, and including another PDF. I'll send you again. You can email me at rogerg@noble4.com, or you can ask Rob for it. The 12 most common signs of rogue URLs. So these are tricks like in the first one here at top. I got this email claiming to be from Microsoft, but it's Microsoft Online, but they misspelled online. The real Microsoft probably wouldn't do that. Second one, it looks like LinkedIn.com, but it's not really LinkedIn.com. It's really LL LinkedIn. It's 2 L's. That was a real fake domain name we saw around a LinkedIn fish. The third one looks like it's from Microsoft. That people see the name, oh, it's from Microsoft. Nope, that's really from a URL that's called, login update December 20 info. That's not Microsoft.com. Or the fourth one there is claiming to be from PayPal, but it's really not PayPal.com. It's PayPal.com.bank, which has no affiliation with PayPal.com. The next one's Google Chrome updates. I got an email claiming to be from Google that wanted me to click on this button to update my Google Chrome browser. You don't have to do that. Google Chrome has its own service that updates it automatically. But I looked at the domain name, and the domain name was not owned by Google. Or the next one there, it looks like Bank of America. We're from Bank of America. It's not from Bank of America. It's from a domain called customerloyalty.accounts.com. If that was a real email from Bank of America, it would say bankofamerica.com. And anyways, if you're interested in this and how to look and recognize legitimate versus rogue URLs, that's a good one to go to. Also, I just say anytime you get an unexpected email or message, that's kind of, be wary about it, especially if it's asking you to do something that you've never been done before, and if that requested action could be harmful, especially if it's trying to create a sense of urgency in there or trying to appeal to profit or greed, then you want to watch out, especially if it contains a link or a file attachment. So when in doubt, don't respond to the email or the message, call some number or go directly to the website to see if it can help you. We're very big believers in training and simulated phishing, and I'm kind of running out of time, so I'm going to skip over the last couple slides just so we can get and take some questions, leave a couple minutes for questions. But if we don't get to your question today, you can email me at rogerg@noble4.com or follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter. And with that, Rob, did we get any good questions? Like, Roger, how do you talk so fast? Let me see if I
Roger,
can.
excellent session. Really, a lot of great information out there. We did receive a couple of questions that I want to present, but I really want to thank you for what is a foundation of information that we can all use in our everyday to thwart these phishing attacks and social engineering activities. So we thank you for that. First question out from our participants was, you had put up a slide regarding the most common ways to infect computers, and one of them was a software bug. And so the thought was, what is the most common programming bug to cause a data breach?
So that changes over time. But sometimes it was Microsoft software for a long time. Like at one point in time, Oracle Java, unpatched Oracle Java, was responsible for 91% of all successful data breaches by itself. So it changes over time. These days, it's certainly operating systems in general, Apple, Microsoft, Google. It's browsers and browser add-ins, and also virtual private networks. Like a lot of people, because of COVID, went home and they had to start using these new VPNs, and a lot of people are forgetting they have to patch those too. That's how a large portion of ransomware now gets in, is unpatched VPN software.
Makes sense. Thank you for that. And so you had talked about the notion of social engineering causing 70 to 90% of the breaches into corporate networks or networks in general. And so can you give us a sense on what is the most common phishing email tactic? And if you were to receive such a tactic, what would be the first thing you would look for to thwart such an attempt? I mean, if you're receiving what you think is a suspicious email, what would you do first? What's the most effective thing to do first?
So the messages absolutely change all the time. It's oftentimes it could be, here's a free Dunkin' Donuts coupon. It could be around Christmas, like, hey, take this free survey for $100 Amazon gift card. Or around
Sure.
tax time, it's, hey, I need to have your W-2. So it literally, the message changes all the time, especially around newsworthy events and COVID and elections and things like that. Earthquakes, celebrity deaths. So this is what I say. Always, here's the 5 signs. And as soon as I see 3 of these, I slow down. Did it come unexpectedly? I don't care how it came. It's usually through email, but it could be through a website, could be through a call, could be through an SMS message. Is it asking you to do something that person or company has never asked? So it actually could come from the real person's email address. Unbeknownst to you, that friend or acquaintance has had their email account compromised, but they're like, hey, I need you to open this document. I need you to go get gift cards. I need you to provide me your social security number, whatever it is. It's new for you from that person. What they're asking you to do could be harmful to you or your company. And then usually they have a sense of urgency. Hey, I need this done now. If you don't do this, we're losing the deal. If you don't do this, you don't get your taxes back or whatever, and especially if it contains an email or link. And what should you do? You should always then, when in doubt, call the persons. Call them on the phone. Boss, did you really mean for me to go get gift cards? Facebook, I got one from Facebook. I wasn't sure. I got out of that email, went to facebook.com, and it was not asking me to do the same thing, so I did not do it. So that's, you can't trust an email or a phone call or a message is really from who it claims to be from. You can't. It's not, unless you understand and recognize the person's voice. Even if it comes from the real email address or appears to come from the real email address, you don't know. So when in doubt, chicken out. When you see when you see 3 or more of these symptoms, call or go to the website directly.
Makes a lot of sense. Appreciate that. Verify. Certainly, verification is important. Absolutely. Another question came in about your thoughts for addressing repeat phishing offenders. So this thought about security awareness and training, the Know Before product that we spoke about earlier. Your thoughts about what do we do with repeat offenders? What are some of the things that have been effective to kind of bring them into line with best practices and make sure they're doing the things that we want them to do?
Yeah. So the biggest thing we know for sure, and there are certain groups of people that never click on a fish or almost never, and there's certain groups of people that seem to click on every fish. And we're investigating what are the triggers and that sort of stuff. For sure, if you send simulated phishing, you can identify people that need more training, right? So you give everybody this common training, then you send this simulated phishing test. That allows you to identify who needs more training. And if you do that, we have done this for years. Our average customer goes from about 1/3 of their employees that are phishable to below 5%. And this is just the simulated phishing. They perform much, much better. It's well below 1%, sometimes zero for actual phishing test. So, that's the whole idea, is just to make everybody more aware and identify. How do you identify who needs more training? The simulated phishing, and someone fails it, they get more training.
So you've seen repeat offenders be trained repeatedly, and similarly with this graph that you're presenting here, their repeat rates, if you will, definitely diminish over time.
Yeah, and actually, we were actually doing a study with the University of Central Florida that shows a lot of the repeat offenders actually have memory deficits in general. Like when we asked them, remember this code. So we had 10 people that never missed a phishing email. We had 10 people that missed every phishing email, and we asked them, here's a code. I want you to create a code, and we're going to come back in 2 weeks and ask you that code. The people that never missed that identified all phishing tests correctly, all 10 of them told us the code 2 weeks later. The people that had failed all 10 phishing tests, none of them could tell us the code that they had selected. So it seems to be there's, even for some people, a memory deficit. And what does that mean? Well, that means you just have to do more frequent training for those people once you identify it. Because a lot of them, it doesn't take, there's a marketing term. You got to put your company's name in front of people 17 times before they remember it. Well, that's for the average person. You got to do it more often for other people. So we're big believers in frequent, consistent training. And that way, the people that have issues with either recognizing a fish or remembering a fish, the more training you get, the more likely you are to, not fall for it.
That's very interesting. Quite an interesting statistic there. Is there a way to provide for some sort of KPI for that in the overall statistics of a phishing campaign? Is that something that you have done or some of your customers have done to consider folks who just have some difficulty remembering what to do with regard to this kind of activity and campaign?
Yeah, I mean, so we do address it, and we've written articles about it and white papers. The big thing is that it may not be enough just to do an email campaign and video. That when you've identified the people that are your frequent clickers, we call them, it may take people coming in and ask them, how can I help you be more successful? We even have phishing counselors that go, hey, we saw you failed these couple of tests. Why do you think you might have? And hey, let's do this. Every time you see a link, just for the next month, never click on the link. Always copy it to a notepad, or like you start. What we find out is that if, for the people that really need additional help, if you can help get trainers or coworkers in there, or what we call our phishing champions, that these people need more than just an email. They maybe need a little bit more hand holding, and then they start to get better.
So is it fair to say that punitive measures don't necessarily work? It's better to have a varied approach with additional training. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, for sure. We believe in more carrot and less stick. We even have companies that fire people for the first offense. I always think it's really bad because I can fish anybody. I can fish anybody. And I even get sometimes, so there's people that say, oh, you can't fish me. I fish them. I have never not fished a person that said they couldn't be fished. Everybody can be fished. You're more likely to get better compliance by, no one wants to fall for a fish.
Sure.
And so, encouragement works better than penalties for sure.
Excellent. Great news there. I appreciate that commentary, Roger. And that concludes our questions today. And I just really want to thank you for the wonderful information that you provided here. I think it can be used in our everyday, certainly for us as an organization and our customers. Roger, I really want to thank you. I think this has been quite insightful, and definitely provides key information with how to remain safe out there, given the environment in which we're facing most recently, and most notably at the attacks that have taken place certainly over this year and last. So we really want to thank you for your time, Roger.
Glad to be, and just say, everybody, go fight the good fight.
Absolutely. So thank you, everyone, for attending CCSI's webinar today. We want to thank you for your time. We do ask you to fill out a questionnaire or a survey to receive and be part of a $5 Starbucks gift card. The survey will be emailed to you later today. We encourage you to do so. It will help us evaluate our content here and what other types of webinars you're interested in. We'll be happy to provide them. We do ask for your feedback, And again, we thank you for your time. Have a great day, everyone, and thanks again.